Hi everyone, and welcome back to Quarantining Tonight. I'm your host, Joseph Quill, reporting to you not live from my mother's basement. Our main story for tonight concerns a report on a mystery drug that has been circulating among teens and young adults. Despite reported side effects such as triggering psychosis, blood clots, and clinical depression, there are still over 100 million users worldwide. Would you take this drug? Would you let your kids take this drug? With those side effects, I wouldn't go anywhere near it. Maybe if you paid me. But buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because this mystery drug is actually oral birth control. Now, oral birth control was first introduced in the United States in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Although it definitely came with its own share of issues, controversy, and side effects, it was still a landmark development that, and I quote, allowed women to truly separate vaginal intercourse from procreation. But is birth control really all that it's cracked up to be? To test just how well our friends and peers understood how birth control worked and what it was used for, we surveyed 180 people in a completely unscientific manner. The results may shock you. Our first question was designed to help the responder remember what it was like to have social interaction, so we started with small talk and asked what % of women in the United States take birth control. Typical soft Gen Z conversation topics. The majority of male responses said somewhere between 31 and 40% of women, while the majority of women said somewhere between 20 and 30%. According to the GroupK Institute, about 60% of women of reproductive age use some sort of contraceptives, while about 25% of those use the pill. For those of you who are too cheap to chip in with your friends for a check account, that's around 15% of women in the United States taking oral contraceptives specifically. So, there are a lot of women taking birth control, but more importantly, a lot of women from a lot of different ages. Our next question asks for the average age of someone starting to use oral contraceptives. 72% of men and 86% of women answered somewhere between 16 and 20 years old, which is correct according to research conducted by the Pandya Health Institute. The average starting age is around 16. There are a lot of organizational effects of sex hormones during the development of the adolescent brain, as sex hormones are responsible for structural and behavioral changes in the adolescent brain. However, there's still a lot of things we don't know yet about the effect of puberty on the brain or of the effect of sex hormones on the female brain specifically. Hypothetically, if I was making a video for a college course, and this course hypothetically had a professor who had written papers maybe on how there's a lack of women's health and women's health studies, and I cited this paper while my professor was watching this video, I think it would be a pretty big red flag on the fact that we're prescribing birth control to 16-year-olds. Just like birth control is used by a lot of different age groups, birth control can also be used for a large amount of different reasons. But I think the major one that will come to mind first is, of course, avoiding pregnancy. Thankfully, the largest % of responses to our survey said avoiding pregnancy, and that is, in fact, correct. Unfortunately, only around 91% of males had this as an answer. Really, guys, what were the other 9% doing? Maybe playing Fortnite or something. Most women also answered for acne problems, while only 1 in 10 men indicated this as an answer, which was interesting. It actually suggests a potential education gap between genders for birth control and sexual education in the United States. When given a list containing actual contraceptives like condoms, oral birth control, organic chemistry, IUDs, or vasectomies, as well as false contraceptives like sleeping pills or Tylenol, I am pleasantly surprised to note that the majority of the responses were not fooled by these fake contraceptives. And as you can see in this chart, there's also about 25% of men who answered Joseph Quill. I'm going to need to talk to my group about that one. I don't know how that got on there actually. That's funny. They're also not wrong. According to JAMA Psychiatry, oral contraceptives with either progestin or estrogen increase the chance of also taking antidepressants by 23%. This study collected data from over 1 million Danish women over a period of 13 years. Another study from 2015 by the Archives of Women's Mental Health showed lifetime prevalence estimates of 22% for women on oral contraceptives. These studies have been replicated time and time again with similar results, but our peers don't seem to know this. About 26% of women answered somewhere between 6 and 10%, with 23% of men answering somewhere between 11 and 15%. This suggests that our peers are significantly underestimating the level at which oral contraceptives have been linked to depression. To find out how often people underestimate the link between the use of oral contraceptives and side effects not limited to depression, we decided to incorporate into our poll a section where we asked the responders to tick off as many of the side effects of oral contraceptives that they knew of. Less than half of both sexes answered suicidal thoughts and actions, blood clotting, or psychosis. All the other side effects that were listed include weight gain, migraines, heart attacks or strokes, fatigue, spotting, blurred vision, swelling or pain in the legs, nausea, acne, weight loss, and breast swelling. For this portion of the survey, we only listed real side effects of taking birth control, and barely anyone got this 100% right. Not only would the majority of people have failed, they would have failed miserably. And this is terrible because for 100 million women, these are all potential side effects that someone might not know to look out for. And that's pretty fucked. But what should you do as a woman if you do experience any of these side effects? The first thought you should have is to go talk to your doctor about it. But in this coming video, we're going to show you, clearly not every single doctor is equipped to handle the concerns for women's health.
I want to start taking birth control. I've heard all these horror stories from my friends, but I trust your opinion as a doctor to tell me everything I need to know.
Oh no, you shouldn't be scared about taking birth control. It's a great option for women.
So, I've heard a lot about the pill. Can you tell me the difference between the progestin only and the progestin and estrogen pill?
Oh, well, one of them is a combination pill which has estrogen and progestin, but the progestin only pill only has progestin.
Right, okay. So, what about the IUD? I read in an academic paper that IUD users have an increased risk of depression compared to pill users.
I didn't know that. The IUD is localized to your uterus and it releases hormones there, so I don't know how it could affect your brain.
Okay. Well, just put me on whatever you think is best.
Okay. Here is a 3-month prescription for the pill. Call to schedule a follow-up appointment in about a year.
Okay.
Now look, this wasn't just written to be a less funny, scuffed version of John Oliver. This was also written to fit the 10-minute limit while, trying to boost my GPA on the side. But besides those things, I think it's important to emphasize that there are a lot of people out there taking birth control for a lot, and I mean a lot of different reasons. But if this survey can go to show anything, there are just as many people out there who aren't given proper information about it. And maybe some people are even being prescribed it without knowing proper information about it. And I think that most would agree, if you only listen to the side effects, birth control would sound pretty crazy. Here, we'll pull up a commercial for you.
And it went like...
Side effects include nausea, weight gain, chloasma, cervical ectropia and leukorrhea, hypermenorrhea, spotting and breakthrough bleeding, galactorrhea and pituitary tumors, chlorophyll movement disorder, endometrial cancer, and hepatic effects.
At the end of the day, for a lot of people, having to deal with side effects is better than not having birth control at all. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not calling for an end to all birth control. That would just be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. What I am advocating for, though, is an increased awareness that comes with the education of women, especially younger girls, and of doctors, which we've clearly seen could use some help when it comes to women's health. There's an overabundance of stories of women thinking that they're crazy, when in reality, anyone would be just as crazy if they were taking that many hormones every single day. Women need to be told that there are different types of contraceptives besides pulling out, or condoms, or majoring in computer science. Oral contraceptives, like any other types of medications, have different brands that can affect each person in a different way. And your doctor should know what side effects each brand and each type of birth control come with, so that way they can pass that information on to you, since they're the ones prescribing them. There's one thing I hope I can leave you with, is that it is so incredibly important that women be given this information even before they start taking oral contraceptives. Because with this information, they can be aware of potential side effects that they need to watch out for, and they'll know when it's the right time for them to talk to their doctor about something going wrong. The more we talk about women's health, the closer we are to a world where we're finally comfortable with maybe one day our kids taking birth control, or even ourselves. Thank you for spending your quarantine time with me. I'm Joseph Quill. Tune in next week, where we'll talk about the superior breakfast food between French toast and waffles.